In the past, we have often heard from planning staff that if a development meets all requirements of the Ascension Parish Code, it must be approved. This is the letter of the law. The letter of the law is destroying our parish. Consider in your deliberations another aspect which has long been ignored, the intent of the law. This is embodied in the policies of the master plan. Without knowing the intent of the law, the letter of the law is like a whip, driving development further down the road, without thought of where we are going or why we are going there. Both the letter and intent of the law must be consistently supported for your decisions to benefit our community collectively and property owners individually. Together, let us make our parish a place with a quality of life we can all enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No one else. All right. Move along to agenda item 7, public hearing to consider the following family partitions. 7A, the Alfred Myers Estate, lots E-2-A-1 and E-2-A-2.
Ellen Jackson with McLean and Associates, asking for your approval of this family partition. I'm here to answer any questions if you may have any.
Any comments or questions from commissioners?
It's a hardship letter. I'm sorry, not be recognized.
Mr. Dumas.
Is a hardship letter been submitted? Do we have a hardship letter?
Yes, I have one.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
I'm sorry, I did not see staff's answer.
Oh,
Yes.
Was that directed at us, or? Oh, we had the hardship letter for the family petition, but the variance was submitted after the application, and so we hadn't gotten the hardship letter for the application, or for the variance for the 60-foot servitude.
So you do not have a hardship
Well,
letter
that's
for
one you
the
told me to bring
variance?
tonight.
And we do not have one currently, no.
That's one you told me to bring tonight, yeah. It's here. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Dalton.
I have a question here. I see a certain contradiction here. In paragraph 2, they're requesting a variance to reduce the 60-foot to 40-foot, but then in the staff comments, item 2, they want to increase it to 60-foot. So I'm a little confused.
Staff, you answer Mr. Dalton's.
I think that was a typo that I just noticed. It should be to decrease from a 60-foot servitude to the 40-foot servitude as mentioned in the minutes, or as mentioned in that paragraph.
What should it be?
A decrease
To
from
what?
the 60-foot to the 40-foot.
It makes a lot more sense that way.
So, Mr. Chair, so, if I may, so you haven't had a hardship letter, and so you haven't had a chance to analyze it against the 7 criteria in the code?
That is
sir?
correct, yes. That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
But I'd like to add something to that. It was, during the holidays and everything, so he just asked me that if I brought it today, and I have brought it, and I placed it here. So,
They need to be given a chance to review it.
well, he just told me bring it tonight. That's it.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Then at this time, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and address the commission on this item, please come up, sign in with the secretary, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. And no one wishing to speak. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? What is the wish of the commission?
move we postpone for 30 days to our next meeting and allow the hardship letter to come forward for review.
I second that motion.
I have a motion to postpone for 30 days by Mr. Sadlerly, seconded by Mr. Kluwat. Is there any objection or discussion? Motion passes. Item 7B, Jerry Hanna et al. Property, tracks B-3-A, B-3-B, and B-3-C.
Ellen Jackson again with McLean and Associates, asking for your approval.
Comments or questions from commissioners? There are no comments or questions from commissioners at this time. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and address the commission, please sign in with the secretary and you'll get you 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to address the commission. Okay. Comments, questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Dalton.
this involves, this servitude of passage involves Tract A, which, if I'm interpreting what I have here before me, is not the petitioner. The ownership of that land is not the petitioner. So my question is, there's certain legal questions in my mind as to how is this possible? So I guess I'd be directing that to legal.
Legal, yes.
So the petitioner is not the owner of the property?
Well, Tract A, in this plat that I have here before me, has a servitude of passage. But that, the lady, according to this Tract A, I'm not certain that that's the owner, or that does not appear to be the owner that's petitioning here.
No, but Commissioner, if I may, that's what the pre-dial servitude ingress and egress and utility servitude agreement is for, correct? So the situation here is that the plat could not be signed until that agreement has been signed, executed, and recorded in the public record, so it could be reflected on the plat.
Well, yes, that is a condition.
Right.
Okay, just want to make sure we're legal.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Kluwat.
should these agreements be signed before they come to us? I mean, I'm asking that. I'm a little confused. Should these agreements be signed before they come to us?
It's a condition that they're signed and recorded before your vote takes effect. So you all are prohibited.
Thank you.
Other questions from commissioners? If not, what's the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to item number 1 on the staff review, that the pre-dial servitude of ingress and egress and utility servitude be fully executed and recorded in the public record and reflected on the plat prior to signature.
I have a motion to
Second.
approve with condition by Julio Dumas, seconded by Bob Nance. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 8, public hearing to consider the following servitude revocation. 8A, Highland Point subdivision. Is there anyone to represent that property? There's no one here to represent that property. What is the wish of the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Dalton.
Perhaps we could move this to the end of the agenda to give them, just in case they should show up.
Require a motion.
That'd be a motion.
I'll second.
You offer, okay, we have a motion by Howard Dalton to move item 8A to the end of our agenda, seconded by Bob Nance. Any opposition or discussion? Item 8A is now, we'll make that item 11, and item 11 will become 12. Just learned from legal counsel that the applicants are not going to be attending the meeting. So, now's the time we go ahead and hold it over, or move it to next month, or?
I'll amend it. Let's move it to next month. and-
Second.
All right, I have a motion to postpone this item for 30 days. Bring it up at our next regularly scheduled meeting by Howard Dalton, seconded by Bob Nance. Any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 8B, Dutchtown subdivision, second filing, lot 69. I erred. I did not inform the public that item has been pulled from our agenda. So if there was anyone here to speak on that item is possibly be discussed at next month's meeting. Item 8C, Arrowhead subdivision, lot 16. Is there anyone here to represent lot 16 in Arrowhead subdivision? Ms. Bandit, you didn't get any information from those folks, did you? All right, well, if there's no one here to represent it, what's the wish of the commission?
Make motion to postpone it for 30 days.
I second that motion.
Have a motion to postpone item 8C, Arrowhead subdivision, lot 16, 30 days until our next regularly scheduled meeting by Steve Barrow, seconded by Milton Cluott. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. This time we have our item 9 subcommittee reports, which is actually item 9A, the subdivision ordinance committee, and we'll go ahead and make those appointments at this time, which will be Commissioners Milton Cluott, J.B. Esnard, Julio Dumas, and Steve Barrow. Now, any commissioners, if any of you cannot serve on a subcommittee or you don't want to serve on a subcommittee, I'm going to ask that you submit something to me in writing, sign it, as to your reasons for not serving on a subcommittee. Mr. Cluott, I assume that you're going to be, as far as acting chairman for the time being. Is there any announcements that you have?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for setting me on the subdivision subcommittee, and I do take the position. I would like to just reflect on a few things very shortly. Number one, we'd like to have a meeting, staff, on January the 25th at 5 p.m. at DPW, and I invite any and everyone that would like to attend that meeting, I invite you to please try to make it. Some of the things we'll be discussing on that would be the contractual agreements, the traffic impact analysis, the review of the current adoption of the commission policies, and the general overall makings of the subdivision ordinance, and we'll start working on that. And, Mr. Chairman, that's what I have at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Cluott. Mr. Compton, possible we can go ahead and get the announcement for that meeting in public notice, the newspaper, to notice the public that it's going to be taking place. Okay, item 10, old business, 10A, 14037 Highway 431, Carter Williams Lane, Lot 2A-1-A, the revocation of a servitude. This item was brought forward from last month. Or is there anyone representing this property here?
Danny Williams. I'm the owner of the property.
Yes, sir. Do any of the commissioners have any questions, comments, or questions for Mr. Williams?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kluwat.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
the existing utilities that are electrical utilities that are on that property right now, will they be moved into the new servitude that you're proposing?
Yes, sir. It's just one pole, and I've already gotten DEMCO to okay it whenever I can get this done.
In other words, if we grant you this right here, I'll visit the site and we measured it. And it seems like the other poles would fall into,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, get it all into the 40-foot of the...
okay, you're talking about all the poles.
Yes, sir.
And that's just not one, it's every one of them.
Well, every one of them's already in except for one. One is on the outside edge of it. I'm trying to move it into the 40-foot part of the right of passage,
Yes,
which
sir.
is the servitude. I'm trying to pick up a couple, well, at least 12 feet on that property because it's approximately 82 feet of that property.
Right.
Is over half of the property is in servitude. And I'm-
So in other words, you're going to extend the road and take the curve out of the road, the present curve
It's
that's in
just
the road.
gonna
you're
go,
just
it's gonna
extend
go
it to-
around, where I'm moving the pole, it's gonna go around the pole, just like the drive is. It's gonna go around the pole and it's gonna cut back. Yes,
It will-
sir.
In other words, the drive will not be straight, as shown on this, as shown on our drawings.
No, it wasn't never straight like that.
No, but the drawings that we have here shows the new road, right of passage, and the utilities straight with your property line.
Right.
Have
Where
it
the-
pull it out.
Yeah, wherever they're gonna put the pole at, it's gonna go around the pole and then straight. There's too many, there's E-tail has a bunch of things right there where that would be straight, and that's what they can't move it. So it has to go, it's gotta go over the same drive that I have, and then it's gonna curve back. I have everything, the sewer, the water, don't have any gas. Everything's in that servitude already. Just trying to get it to where it's, at least I can collect 12 more feet of my property.
Ricky, do we have to show on this drawings the actual location of the road? We do not, it's not required. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Mr.
question
Nance.
for staff. Is there any particular reason there weren't any structures shown on this plat? Because it looks like one of those mobile homes are protrude into that 40-foot.
This is the historic plat. They don't do their revised plat until they're into the next phase of this revocation, relocation of the servitude process. This is the 2004 plat. They're representing the change that they want to make. You guys make your recommendation to the council. The council then either decides to change it or not, and at that point, they revise their plat to show what that new servitude is going to be. But historically, they don't spend the money doing that survey work until they've got an idea of whether or not it's going to be accepted.
Well, I guess really my question goes, is that going to create a non-conforming structure if we approve it like this?
I have no idea. I haven't been out to the site. I mean, this is what I've seen so far. And if it
Chairman.
does, it does.
We've been out to this,
Mr. Kluwat.
I've been out to the site and visited the site, and it seems, and we measured it off, Mr. Sadley and I, and it seems like once we grant this, that it seems like after measuring it, the forward trail or the trail in the back will intrude to some of the right-of-ways and building lines, building setbacks and stuff.
If it intrudes today, it's not going to change in the future because they're not moving any of those lines.
Done. Okay, so in other words.
It's an existing non-conforming.
Non-conforming, okay.
No.
Mr. Escar.
In his letter of ordinance here, he states lots 2A1, 2B1-CC, and so on. Shouldn't that be 2A1-A? I mean, the same error is made in the second paragraph also. And if this is going to be public record, it should be correct.
We can, if the commission elects to approve it or recommend approval, we can make that a condition to correct any language in the ordinance. Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
It's
Dalton.
ended, and if I'm reading this right, I just want to clear it up in my own mind. Under the description, Highway 14037, Highway 431, Carter Williams Lane, Lot 2A-1-A, and that's clearly defined here as the first lot out there abutting Highway 431. I just want to make sure that I understand and everybody else that we're only removing that servitude on that one lot. We're not removing that 12-foot servitude on the other lots, if I'm reading this correct. Or am I out in left field?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sally.
I would hope Commissioner Dalton is correct, because I can't understand this idea. I visited the property myself of moving one pole.
Right.
If he's correct, one pole would be moved, and the rest of them that are sitting in that servitude would remain right where they are, which is a total of like 4 more electrical poles.
Right.
That immediately made me question, even though it says here Demco has approved it, and you said they've been out to the site, it's just confusing as to what really is going to happen. I mean, I have your word, sir, of what you say is going to happen, and I don't have no reason to doubt that, but I think like Commissioner Dalton is saying, if one pole moves, it's just the pole that's on lot, the pole that Mr. Estar was questioning, 2A1 with the left off A, assuming we added.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah, but it's supposed to go all the way back. I want the whole servitude chain. Now, the guy that wrote it up is not here, you know.
Mr. Chairman, if it goes all the way back, it would seem to me then that you're not moving one pole, you're moving like 4 or 5 of them. I don't know the
No,
exact
we're not going to
count.
move but one pole, though.
Okay. Then we have
The
to
other ones
clarify
are
something.
inside the servitude. Only one is on the edge of it, and that's at the beginning of the property. We're going to move it 15 feet from the property line.
So, wait a minute, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead,
you
Mr.
just said
Jones.
something that caught me. So you're telling me that all of the poles are within the existing utility servitude, one's on the edge,
Right.
and you want to move it, but the other poles are going to stay on the servitude.
They're inside the 40-foot part of the
Oh,
servitude.
they're already in the 40-foot, so they're
Yes.
not even in the utility servitude.
Yes.
Not in the
We're trying to move the 12-foot of the servitude off the 40, where I can at least pick up 12 more feet of my property. I got a 40-foot servitude that I got, everything's in it except for one pole.
Okay, let me try this again. So all of the rear poles are already in the 40-foot servitude.
Correct.
And they're not on the 12-foot, because the document removes it from all of the lots with the exception of the typo on the one lot. You're correct.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Kluwat.
Sir, again, excuse me, again, I don't quite understand what you're trying to do based on what was given to us. It shows that everything is going to be straight. In other words, there's not any curves or anything in here that, I don't know, I'm missed at what you're trying to do that has utility service poles in the area. Now, you're saying you're going to move one pole. That pole is going to go, looking at your property, is it going to go to the left or to the right?
It's going to the south of the property.
south of the property,
Off 15 feet off.
to
the
line up
property,
with the existing, the remainder of the existing poles in the back?
approximately.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
then, isn't that gonna put it in your driveway? That's the existing driveway without taking and moving your driveway straight like you're showing it right here on
I
this?
don't have but a 20-foot driveway, sir. I don't have a 40-foot driveway. I have a 20-foot, sir.
Mr. Compton?
It doesn't show it on there, but the actual driveway does curve to the property line. That's just, that was nothing was back there whenever I got this done.
Mr. Compton?
Commissioner Kluot, I believe that the confusion is that he doesn't have a 40-foot driveway. It's a 20-foot driveway within a 40-foot servitude. So it can curve within a 40-foot servitude up to 20 feet. You know, you have wiggle room in there for that narrow driveway, and we don't typically depict driveways within servitudes on plats.
I understand that, but are you gonna remove your curb in the ditch and you're gonna move it over?
No, sir. I don't understand what you're saying. Remove the curve in the ditch.
That's totally different what has been given to us.
Can you stick that under the projector?
Yes,
So we can-
please. That's the confusion, sir. What you showing us is totally different from what we
Well,
had.
That's 2004. I didn't even have anything back there then.
I understand that, sir, but to us to make a decision, we should have at least the proper plat, the proper documentation.
That's
I mean, I'm trying to help you.
Sir, we were given two plats. We were given a plat from 2004, and we were given a plat from 2010. They both look the same.
Okay.
And the plat from 2004 has the servitude highlighted. So there is some confusion amongst the commissioners because there's some conflicting bits of information here. And we just want to make sure that we do understand what it is we're going to be voting on.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Well, since this was, if there are no comments or questions from commissioners at this time, since this was carried over from last month, I'm going to open it up. If there is anyone else here that'd like to address the commission on this item, please come up, sign in with the secretary, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. Okay, there's no one else that wishes to address the commission. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
This goes to the parish council, so I'm going to make a motion to recommend approval of the ordinance with the corrections to the reference of the effective lots, so that they refer the right lots to A-1-A, 2B1-CC, 2B1-BB, and 2B1-AA.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
By Mr. Julio Dumas with corrections to the ordinance, seconded by Mr. Bob Nance. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 10B, Mossy Oak subdivision.
Good evening. I'm David Cohn. I'm an attorney. I represent the developer, America Homeland, LLC. This Mossy Oak item was before you on December the 8th. You deferred or postponed this decision to the next meeting, which is tonight. Since that time, I understand that the names of the streets of the subdivisions have been changed. That part has been altered, and there were some typographical issues in the presentation. I also see in the minutes, or not the minutes, but the agenda for tonight, that the planning staff has added a couple other elements to their comments as well, in addition to the typographical error that I think it said 136 lots in a presentation when it was 139. The item is up for your consideration. We ask for your favorable vote approving Mossy Oak. I'm not going to go back through the long, detailed history. We gave a presentation back on December 8th. We talked it out. We discussed it. You discussed it. And we ask you to approve the subdivision inasmuch as it has received planning staff approval. It meets all criteria of the development code, and it's before you tonight for you to either approve it, or if you choose to disapprove it, then state your reasons. So I'll submit it to you with that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'm going to open this up for commissioners to make comments or ask questions. But before I do, since I am the one who made the motion to postpone this for 30 days to give the developer an opportunity to get with the residents and resolve some of these issues amicably, also get with staff. The first question I'm going to ask you, Mr. Cohn, is did the developer do that? Did he meet with the residents? Yes or no? Simple yes or no, sir?
No.
Thank you. Then, I have 11 points that I'm going to read out, along with a summary. Point 1, although required, no wetlands delineation from the Corps was indicated as being provided. See Note 11. As such, any wetlands were not shown on the map. Now, I suspect there is significant wetlands involved, which will require a 404 permit from the Corps. Item 2, there are currently 15 lots indicated having access only to Babin Road. It's been the PC policy not to allow such on larger subdivisions, as the Commission wants some access from the interior of the development. What has changed? Item 3, many of the lots will require in excess of 5 feet of fill. Where is the mitigated fill to come from? The detention ponds appear too small. Item 4, how are the fill lots to transition into the adjoining property? In many cases, it is more than a 4-foot differential, which will require significant transitional space or a retaining wall. Item 5, any potential extension of Babin Estates Drive to the neighboring property is of concern. It will require over 5 feet of fill due to the flood issue and is appearing to almost immediately intersect with the Bayou Grand Goudin if extended. As a practical matter, it would appear the neighbor would never tie into that street due to these two issues. Item 6, the proposed sewer treatment plant is located 4.5 feet below the 100-year BFE. How are they handling that issue along with access due to potential flooding? Item 7, Willow Crest Drive and Sterling Ridge Drive would be difficult to connect. It would require 2 drainage crossings and a significant amount of fill to construct such a street. In addition, lots would be lost and no additional lots could be created due to the floodplain cost and quite possible wetlands issues, referring back to comment 1. Item 8, the detention pond appears not to address the easterly one half of the development, as crossing the pipeline to get to it would be quite difficult, as would going against the contours for Willowcrest Drive. Item 9, the lots along Sterling Ridge Drive will require significant fill. Where will this come from and how will they transition to natural ground? Number 10, I question if Lot 106 meets the minimum lot size requirement. Number 11, there is no secondary or emergency interest shown for such a large development. Not normal and customary. Extension of Babin Estates Drive is not an option, of course. And in the summary, it would appear this layout is depicted as greatly stretching the bounds of developing in a floodplain. Developer's problem, but could lead to a dysfunctional project if many of the lots cannot be created as needed to make the financial pro forma work. Forget access to the neighbors, lots 56, as that would appear to be a pipe dream at the location shown. Last but not least, the fill and pipeline crossing issues are very complex and would make or break this project. How they are to be accomplished requires much more explanation. I'm going to ask the secretary if she will include my comments in the body of the minutes and get a copy after the meeting.
Mr. Chair, does staff have these 11 points?
No, they do not. This is how I spent last week. Mr. Kluwant.
I also spent a great deal of time on this project. I visited this project. I walked this project. I walked it with my boots on. And I have a grave concern tonight that I'm going to question someone, whether it be you or the engineer, because it involves the engineer, in relation to the pipelines. The first thing I'm going to ask is that whenever you submitted Woodgate Estates, there's a confusion as to whether or not permits were issued or not issued with the pipeline. Can you tell me if any any permits were issued with Woodgate Estates in relation to the pipelines?
Can't tell you. This is Mossy Oak, but I don't know anything about Woodgate Estates.
Okay, sir. Okay. Then the Woodgate Estates did not make it. So the contractor or the developer came back and started a PUD.
Yes, sir.
And in that PUD development, staff commented real heavy on the fact of what was going to take place on the particular piece of property regarding the pipeline. And in the response to that, it was stated that instead of right-of-ways, there were servitudes. Well, since that, I have contacted the gas company, and they have walked the property with me too. And they have stated that they don't have servitudes on that piece of property. They got right-of-ways. And we all know the difference between a right-of-way and a servitude. So I have a grave issue of some of the things this gentleman brought up to my mind. Have y'all ever contacted the gas company to work out any type of permitting for that particular project?
What type of permit would you need from the gas company if you're dealing with your own property?
Well,
as long as you're not violating the servitude agreement or the right-of-way agreement. I mean, what official permit from them are you talking about?
Okay, the gentleman informed me that it's not controlled locally, and it's not controlled state, it's controlled federal. The federal government controls what they're doing with their pipelines in that particular area. And in doing so, they have a large amount of rules and regulations that anybody doing anything in the right-of-ways have to have permits. In your statement in the PUD states that y'all have that. Would you like me to read it? It says that y'all already have it. The gentleman says there was no type of permit issued in that type of field to do what you want to do. So I'm very, very, I don't know what to take it other than the fact that I'm fear that something is going to happen if the construction crew goes out there, and even the people that's going to live there goes out there and penetrates the ground. Right now, one of the questions the gentleman asked me is, how are you going to access your sewer treatment plant? It's shown to be next to one of the servitudes for the pipeline, the right-of-way, the right-of-way. And he says, no way are you going to put a road of any nature on top of that right-of-way. And then he asked me, how are they going to service that when it's underground, when it's water on the ground just about year-round? How are they going to bring a truck in there if it needs to be serviced and shutting down the whole type thing?
Well, I would tell you that those are going to be issues, if they are issues, that would be sorted out, just like they're always sorted out, somewhere down the road before they can start selling lots in there, because if they can't get the sewer treatment and make it work, then they can't have the subdivision because they can't get the state permit for it from DHH. It's a state permitting issue. If the pipeline company is viewing this as a federal question, then it's not before you fellas and lady tonight.
No, that's not what I said, sir. I said their rules. They issue permits. They will issue a permit for you to do what you need to do. But I'm real concerned that when you did the Mossy Oaks PUD, you stated in your, or someone stated in that y'all already had a permits. Already had, and this gentleman is the controller of the area in which that pipeline is located. Their home office is in Covington.
Well, then again, let's assume you're correct.
Oh, I'm correct, sir. You can rest that.
No,
You can rest on that, sir.
Let's assume you're correct, that there's no permission with the pipeline company on how to access other parts of this property. Then that's an issue that's going to have to be taken up with that pipeline company.
He said you can do it, but you have to come to him first.
Well, there's a lot of permits that have to be acquired after this process is finished. There's a whole lot of stuff that has to be done after this process is finished. We can't even commence construction without approval of construction plans from your planning staff. So this is this is the preliminary plat approval stage. We haven't reached the construction stage. We haven't sold a lot. We haven't built the improvements yet.
I have the subdivision regulations before me, and I stand to be corrected if I misinterpret them wrong, but some of the issues you're talking about should be addressed in this plat, sir. It should be addressed according to the Ascension Parish subdivision regulations, should be addressed before, right now, in this plat. Now, I have a problem whenever I'm going to look at the information that was given to me, and it's blatantly lying that is saying that y'all already have permits, then I'm scared. And I mean, and if you want to, you're more than welcome after this session, you're more than welcome to get with me, and I will give you the gentleman, his name. He will be happy to come down and meet with you so that y'all can take and go with him and see what you have to do up front and not do it. Because the one thing that he said the most was that, why do they do everything before coming to us? And they get into trouble. The old cliche, they get into trouble. And then we have to turn them down.
Well, the point of fact is that if America Homeland did get in trouble over this, then they can't develop the subdivision, they can't sell the lots. That is a development issue. I don't think it's a plat approval issue, and that's where we may disagree. But nonetheless, I mean, I would have to say your planning staff didn't agree with you because they said it met the criteria for your subdivision ordinance.
Would you like me to repeat the sections that are in here?
Well, I mean, we can debate a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to debate it. I mean, I'm here for the vote. You can recite it if you wish, but that would be your privilege.
I understand that, but I have a problem when I get something that someone has, and I know they don't have it from the owner. I have a serious problem with that.
Right. Well, Commissioner Kluwat, I guess what that means is that when the vote comes up, it'll be a no vote from you, and this will be your reason, or one of them. So.
Well, would you like me to read one of the sections in this particular subdivision regulations? No, sir. I'm here to see if this subdivision, and if you can do it, sir. I don't have a vote yet. For you to assume that I have a vote, that's very wrong on you to think that I'm going to vote one way or the other. I'm here, and I represent the people of this parish, and I also represent staff, and I also help represent the rest of these commissioners, sir, and I also represent the parish. And I'm here to get the information, and I'm asking you, do y'all have a permit on that piece of property right now?
I have no idea.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Sadler.
I'll yield to Mr. Dumas if you.
Mr. Claude brought up some issues. He's got some sections of the code that he thinks that, this petition is not in compliance, and I would very much like to hear what sections those are and what the basis are for that. I think that, he should share that with all of us. I mean, that's information I think would be valuable to all of us.
That's fair enough, Mr. Kluwat. Would you read out the sections to us that you feel are deficient?
They're in the area, excuse me. They're in the area of the gas pipeline, and I'm going to touch on a few other issues that I have, but I didn't get to them yet. They're traffic, drainage, flood zone, and wetlands. Section of the preliminary plat procedure, Section 17405, Section 17405.c, Section 17405.d.4, Section 17405.d.4.b, Section 17405.I, Section 17406.a. The next one is the section on plats and data for preliminary approval. Section 17406A, Section 17406B-10, Section 17406-B-11, Section 17406.B-B-14, Section 17406.B.15, Section 17406D. The plat review submittal checklist, the drainage requirements on Section 174044, the sanitary sewer requirements, Section 174046, the FEMA flood, Section K, the wetlands and the LPDES determination, Section M. Some of these you may cross over, and you may have some of this, but I did not get the majority of this.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Satterley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concern about approval of this subdivision plan is centered primarily on traffic issues, of which I see many. Last month, actually, sir, the public challenged us as commissioners, and I'll just quote just one of the individuals who will go unnamed because I don't even remember who it was, but each and every commissioner, I beg you to go by Babin Road and the surrounding roads and assess the traffic issues. I took that to heart and, like Mr. Kluat said, visited this property. I didn't go in boots into the subdivision, but I did drive into it, as well as all these surrounding roads, KC, JD Broussard, all the way out to 621, the airline, etc. And the following observations came to light, and the reason I'm so concerned then with these traffic issues. You talked about a trail of tears last time as it related to, I guess, the original application of Woodgate Estates. And I know we don't want to whip the dead dog too badly, and maybe let it lie, but then to a PUD to the current submission of Mossy Oaks. But it's clear to me now that I've done some homework, and I guess that's just what I am again as a college professor, that when it was Woodgate Estates, and please, Mr. Chairman or the other people that were here historically, or staff or anyone jump in if I give bad information, certainly willing to correct it, there was a turning lane onto Babin Road, initially at least, although I understand it was rescinded. There were indeed 106 lots, which is 30 some odd less than being proposed now. There were 15 lots on Babin Road, but interestingly enough, there were driveways from each of those internalized into the subdivision, brought out by several of the folks last time, and I was able to see that when I visited the property. In other words, my concern there, without a second entrance and exit onto Babbitt Road, or even the turnaround, and we'll get to that possible turnaround that was there under a different application. You know, lots 1 to 13, 84 and 85, it's possible that, maybe not probable it's going to happen very often, but as many as 15 different cars could be backing onto Babin Road, which I saw to be a road, as one of the folks in the public said last time, that at certain parts of it, it narrows to as small as 18.5 feet with big, deep ditches on each side. So it's a pretty dangerous situation, sir, in my humble opinion, considering that my driveway, I took a tape measure on it, and it's 12 feet alone in a single lane. Let's see. I'm a little bit concerned too, and this question, Mr. Chairman, could go to staff too, that the second driveway situation onto Babin Road, according to our minutes, and I know we haven't approved them, but this is factual because I saw a replay of the tape not too long ago. and it's recorded this way in the minutes accurately, was not analyzed in terms of the required traffic study. And on that, we not only had a motion last time by Mr. Marchand to get with the people as well as staff and get some of the issues straightened out in the area of traffic where I was particularly interested last time.
I think that's one of the comments staff
Please let me
spoke
finish,
to.
and then I'll give you all the time or Chairman will give you time to respond.
Yes, sir.
I was given materials in my packet, sort of like the last situation that we just had here, where I don't have that information from staff to make a decision that says, you know, what type of study was done. In fact, what I see in the minutes, it was actually done when it was a PUD, which is a whole different beast because, again, that had 2 entrances, even though the lots were higher in number, 175. And it seems like in the minutes it reflected, to me, a bit of a cavalier approach to say, well, if the lots were higher, that alone, since it's less lots and it was approved under that deal from the traffic standpoint, it must be okay with less lots. But I'm not sure if that's the case, sir, with 2 entrances versus 1. Then there's the connectivity issue, and I labored on that and took a look at that. Again, our Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Ricky Compton, made comments that there was grading issues, so it'd be difficult to do that. And I do see that. It looks like it's 5 feet or more. The old fallen, I forget the names of them. Let's see, let's use the new names. Now Sterling Ridge and Willow Crest Drive. But he also stated, that was not recorded in the minutes, that there's an engineering solution for every problem, quote unquote. And that you guys were advised, the developer at least, that they, as staff, thought that, you know, you should connect or try to figure something out there, at least in terms of that. In fact, that was even part of the motion made by Mr. Julio Dumas last time, the connectivity issue as long as the renaming the trees. And by the way, going to what Mr. Marchand started the discussion this evening with, the only thing I really see is that the streets have been, I said naming of the trees, renaming of the streets. That's the only thing I see pretty much that's changed. So I have no traffic data to go from. Unfortunately, I'm a University of Missouri graduate where I received my doctoral degree, and I see you smiling. So you realize that's the show me state. And I'd like to, you know, I'd love to approve this for you, but show me the traffic study. For example, what was supplied to me is no traffic information per se, but I do have something saying that it could be a threshold 1, 2, or 3. And reading just a brief definition of a threshold 2 limited traffic impact study, it states, sir, if the proposed development results in greater than 75, but less than 400 peak hour trips, either in the AM or PM, then the owner development should submit, and I'm not going to read them all, but A through H criteria. So that's mathematically 8 points. 2 or 3 of those really bother me. For example, the public last time talked about providing or asking us to get a hold of the sheriff's accident data. Where is that data? What does it say? That's F, by the way, providing vehicle accident data in proximity of the site, if available. I'm going to make the assumption that it is. If it is, I don't have it. Show me. G, analysis of the roadway capacity, existing or proposed on all roadway links abutting the proposed development site. Certainly that would be Babin Road. And identifying the necessary roadway and intersection improvements to maintain existing level of service. I don't think anyone would reasonably conclude that existing level of service can be maintained by putting the extra, it was mentioned last time by commissioners, the public, 2, whatever number you want, 2.5 more cars multiplied by the number of lots, et cetera, et cetera. And even on that issue, I have data shared with me by a fellow commissioner that at 12 noon just last week, during a 5-minute period, now this isn't the peak AM, PM as the statute requires here, 83 cars passed. It's not fuzzy math that say in 5 minutes, that's 300 seconds, that's 2 or 3 cars per second. And that's before the development. So with the development, what's it going to be? A car a second, so forth and so on. Analysis of the nearest major intersection, Part H, typically signalized. I think that means with a traffic signal in each direction of a major site highway. There's a 3-way stop there at I guess Broussard in your property, a 4-way at Babin and KC. Looks to me like the closest signal light would be on Babin and actually Highway 61, which is, we know it as the airline highway. Where is that threshold study? Again, it's at least missing in my materials. I don't have it. During the week, I want to also go on record to say, and I won't violate what I've been told in the email communication to be an attorney-client privilege from staff, but legal has advised all members, myself included, that we need to be careful when we make decisions, that we're not, according to the state statute, in any way arbitrary, capricious, or unreasonable in making those decisions. And in fact, I even looked at some of those things that y'all, I'm not an attorney, sir, but whatever you'd call it, a tort or whatever it's called, where it speaks about, in a particular law, LARS 33-101.1, that what we really need to be concerned about, and not being those bad things, and by the way, for those not aware of it, I had to look the word capricious up myself. In a dictionary, it just means you do things on a whim. I assure you, sir, I'm doing nothing on a whim here tonight, or will I ever anyway potentially do something like that. Certainly, I know it arbitrary and unreasonable, but I don't think what I've just said is very unreasonable. But we should make our decisions, I digress a little bit, on health, safety, and welfare. I don't think that it's very safe and very healthy, the existing traffic issues that are being proposed here, even though I know you're going to say, or I'll give you a chance to say that, well, they did a traffic study and it's all said to be okay, so we're not breaking the law. And I'm not accusing you of doing that. But if we're, the only way that we can reject or accept a subdivision plat, according to legal, is by the showing of the existence of issues of health, safety, and welfare. I really wonder how safe this is from what I've seen in business site and for all the reasons I just gave. Last but not least, Director of Planning and Development last time, again, I was looking at the tape this week, said, and I couple this with what's in the traffic impact study here on the on today's agenda, the addition of a second driveway in Babbitt Road, while, as I said earlier, not analyzed, would be expected to improve the operation of the proposed access as the trips will be distributed between two driveways instead of one. I further recall Mr. Compton saying, like one of the public members, God forbid that there be an accident at that one entrance and exit, a paramedic unit, an ambulance, whatever. I would have a little problem if I accept this tonight as it is, reading in a newspaper that someone met their maker because I approved something that was unsafe. So I really don't feel like there's a big burden here relative to just, and I know you're an attorney, satisfying the law versus maybe what I would consider to be the spirit of the law, which is also charged in that statute, RS 33-101.1, that we don't be arbitrary, we don't be capricious, we don't be unreasonable, but we have to make decisions on the health, safety, and welfare. And I'm concerned about the safety issues as it relates to all this traffic business with this subdivision, sir.
Well, on the traffic, and I'm not going to beat that one up either. I can only say that for a 175 lot subdivision, the traffic study passed muster. It was approved. This planning commission, with a different group of folks, approved the PUD, the planned unit development, that ultimately went to the council for approval that they turned down. So logic tells you if it was okay for 175 lots, it ought to be okay for 139. Bear in mind that 10 of those lots are on Highway 74. So they're not coming out on Babin Road, they're coming out on 74 of those 139 lots. But then we updated the traffic report, submitted it to planning staff. We studied what they asked us to study with their comments, and it met their approval. On the question of one entrance in and one entrance out, I don't recall right now exactly the map on the PUD, but my recollection was that there may have only been one entrance in that 175 lot plan unit development. But even if it was two, how many subdivisions do you have in this parish that have one entrance in and out? You got tons of them. So imposing an arbitrary rule of two entrances in and out of a subdivision on this development at this time when no one else has ever had to meet that burden, and I can't find it in the development code that it says you have to do it. I mean, I think we've met the burden under the development code. The question here, sir, is not whether or not we've done enough or you've done enough or your job is well or not well or you like it or you don't like it. The question is whether you like your own development code. That's the question. And I mean, my sense of it is you're not happy with it. You got a subcommittee that you're fixing to get very active with it. I heard that tonight. And you're going to try and implement some changes that give you the opportunity to do some things that you otherwise don't think you've got the clear path to do it. So you're going to try and change it. But the way I see it, and what I see really doesn't matter much, but I'll say it. The way I see it is you're trying to implement what you think it should be included in the development code into this plat approval when I don't think you have the discretion to do it. I think we met the criteria, even if it's a one-entrance subdivision. And it's not something that has not been done before. It's been done a lot of times. I've heard of a couple of subdivisions mentioned last week that were ideal subdivisions. One of the members said, give us something like this one or that one or whatever. I looked at those. I've got the maps here. They're one-entrance subdivisions, and they were acceptable. So Babin Road is not a substandard road by state standards. It meets the criteria. It hasn't been closed. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's the you know, I guess the byproduct of trying to assimilate growth in this parish in a logical and fruitful manner for everyone. And all I can really say is I'm not the engineer. I can't give you the technical jargon of what's up, what's down, what's good, what's bad. I can only say that this developer is playing by your rules, and this developer, America Homeland, followed those rules, and we're asking for your approval. And I can tell from the tone of the comments, many of you have deep concerns about this, and you're looking for ways to get some rationalization for yourselves in this project. But I think in some respects, you know, in your case particularly, you know, you're asking about things that may be good ideas, but they may not be required. And I'm not here to belittle what you're saying, or I'm just saying I think that, you know, your points are taken, but I think that we've met the criteria. I think the documentation shows that, and I'm not going to argue point by point with you, because I'm not prepared to do that, don't intend to do that, and we would be here for the rest of the night, all day tomorrow and the next day. We will, in the nutshell, it's this. Commissioner Marchand asked for me, yes or no, did you meet with anybody in the public about this subdivision? And I gave him what he wanted, a yes or no. I said no, and we had not. But we weren't contacted by anybody from the neighborhood. We didn't try and contact anybody in the neighborhood. The two parties are miles apart. I'm not saying there's not something that could be accomplished from it, but they're so far apart that I don't think anybody thought there would be anything worthwhile to gain from it. And this developer, I can tell you, he has a history of meeting with folks in neighborhoods and surrounding areas who have concerns and making concessions when those are fruitful and valid. In this case, you know, the problem we have here is not that the public doesn't like the layout of this subdivision. The public doesn't want this subdivision. It got bounced as a planned unit development when everybody approved it, and it met every single criteria. And the battle cry during the PUD argument was, we want a regular subdivision, despite the fact that the planned unit development preserved trees, gave lots of green space, but it had a higher density. Well, everyone on the council, the public, howled about it once it got into that stage. It flew through this commission. It was okay. Why? Because it met the criteria. It did what it was supposed to do. Well, when we get up there, I say they got up there, I wasn't involved with it, but the council turned it down, they voted it down. So rather than go fight that battle straight up, this developer backs up and says, okay, the public says, give us a regular subdivision. We don't want this planned unit development. We don't like planned unit developments. We don't want planned unit developments. We don't understand them. We don't want them. So what does he do? He puts together another subdivision that seemingly should just walk right through. But now the fight is, we don't like the subdivision, but the point of it is, I think, is the public doesn't want a subdivision in this spot and in a lot of spots. Because if I've heard it once, I've heard it many times, the general public wants to slow growth down in this parish. They want to preserve their rural nature. They want to keep what they have, but many of them, you have to recall, moved into this parish for the very reasons many others may want to move into this parish. I mean, you got a good place to live. I mean, let's face it, you do. But in this particular element, I mean, the real estate that this developer bought, he has the privilege to develop it, to try and develop it. He got shut down on one side of it that should have gone through, and now he's meeting the headwinds on this side of it, and when he thought he was giving the public what they wanted to begin with, which was a regular subdivision. So, you know, I mean, we're, to say the least, a little puzzled, greatly frustrated, but nonetheless, you know, we can debate the fine points of general thought processes that take place in the public and on this commission about what should or shouldn't be. All I'm really saying is I think we've done it. I think we have done what the Development Code asked us to do, and we've asked for your vote, and I think our documentation responds to your questions. So I don't know. That's what
Mr. Chairman, I just want a quick follow-up, and then we can move on. I have just one question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's from my wife.
Yes, sir.
You've said half a dozen or more times, and I appreciate what, you know, all of that satisfied all the development codes, satisfied all the codes, satisfied all the laws, and the staff a lot of times comes up here and says, we recommend you do this because everything, all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. So my wife asked me, why do we need a planning commission? If all the criteria is met and all the laws have been met, why are we even going through this process? What should I tell her?
I think you tell her that the Planning Commission has a statutory duty that has to follow. It follows that statutory duty, whatever that is. I mean, I've read particularly what your responsibility is here in Appendix 4, Section 4.05E, which is to see if the plat follows the codal provisions and to vote yes or no. I mean, that's it. That's why you're here.
I read this posted on the internet on the planning and zoning guides. A question persistently raised in litigation matters is whether a subdivision plat meets all minimum technical engineering requirements, therefore it must be approved by a local planning commission. The answer is, under Louisiana law, the answer is no, quote unquote. Although this does not mean the issue could be free of litigation, that's certainly a right of anyone. But based on specific language of LARS 33-101.1, added in 1990 and confirmed by recent Court of Appeal decision, the act of approving or disapproving a subdivision plat is statutorily recognized and defined as a legislative function involving the exercise of legislative discretion by a planning commission. City of Hammond versus Parish of Tangipahoa et al., 2007, CAO 574. So that's the answer I would give my wife. That's why we go through the process. It is as our discretion. Mm-hmm. And if it's not right and you can Staff has, I guess, warned us, say that what we did was arbitrary, capricious, or unreasonable. And then I guess we have a problem on that. But all I'm asking for, again, as a new commissioner, I need more information. I'd love to see, I mean, it was approved as 106, it's said by other people, sat before me.
It was approved by 175 by people before you,
Okay,
too.
but, you know, the fact that it was approved by 106, but it lapsed for 2 years and it wasn't developed, it's certainly not has nothing to do with me, for sure.
No,
Okay?
and
Or the PUD concept, which went, I guess, beyond here and went to the council, and they're the guys that turned it down. But I'm just trying to say, I want to be sure that if the answer is no, it's no, that we do have some sort of duty and responsibility. And I take it very seriously, and that's why I went out to the property and said all the things I said. But I do thank you, sir, for all your comments.
yes, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Esnard and then Mr. Barrow.
One thing I noticed that in the traffic study that I was given that was done back in July of last year, that there were no lots emptying out directly onto Babin Road.
That was the PUD. That was the Plan Unit Development Traffic
No,
Study.
It wasn't either. It was for 106 lots.
That was Woodgate?
Yeah,
Yeah, Woodgate was a different subdivision.
right. But that was the study that I saw.
Right. Well, Mr. Esnard, probably because Woodgate wasn't designed with any coming out on Babin
Right.
Road. But I mean,
But it doesn't reflect the impact that that would have on Babin Road.
well, the updated traffic study did not find it to be a problem. And in fact, if you drive up and down Babin Road, there's a lot of houses that lead out to Babin Road. I mean, they're not all
Yeah, but
subdivisions.
not to the magnitude that you have in this short stretch right here. That's point number one. The other thing is that with your gas line right-of-way coming through there, to utilize numerous lots in this development, that fill will have to be placed to get above the floodplain, or even to take the slope out of the lot to make it useful. And in the process of doing that, you're either going to have to add fill to those lots, which means adding fill on top of that gas line, which is a civil engineer that deals in foundations. The gas line is not going to approve that. The other alternative that you would have would be to drive sheeting along those property lines to add fill. Not only would it be very costly, but I'm not so sure that the gas line would allow you to do that either.
Well, that would be
Then
I'm sorry.
the sewer treatment plant would have to be built above the floodplain elevation, and that would require a cofferdam right up against the pipeline. I don't believe they'll let you do that either. So what the point that Mr. Clewart brought up about getting together with the pipeline company, I think is a very
That you
valid
raise
point.
are
in
questions that are outside, I think, of
analyzing
this
the
plat approval. I think they have
of
to
this
do with
study,
the
of this
feasibility
whole
of developing it to
But
begin with.
those questions-
And those are both economic questions and legal contractual questions that will take place with the servitude company, and just because there's a construction plan that gets approved to build it, doesn't mean that there's not some other deficiency or block to that. I mean,
Well,
your points are well taken,
Yeah.
that these are minefields that this developer is going to have to maneuver with, around, or through to get what he wants. And if he ends up he can't build it that way, he may have to come scrap it and come back and redesign it. But those are economic issues. Those aren't. I mean, if he wants to propose a plat that does this, how he goes about making it happen, that's his problem. And if he can't get it done under the existing structure, guidelines, federal permitting, or whatever else it takes outside of Ascension Parish plat approval, then those are the hills he has to climb. I mean, no different than his wetlands determination. I mean, he got a wetlands determination letter and he mitigated it. He's got to go to the DEQ for his affluent and sewer permits, that's outside of Ascension Parish. That could stop this development cold too. So, I mean, there are other things outside of what we do here today, assuming you approve, that he's got to overcome these obstacles. And I don't think this developer is unmindful of these issues. Although it's been a while since anybody picked them apart like y'all have, but that's a good point. You have a good point.
Mr. Barrow?
I guess that discussion leads to my question. Is there anybody on staff that could give us a little bit of history or background on when typically the gas line approvals would happen? Do we typically see people coming in with all that already done? Is it done afterwards? Does it vary? Just a little history on that.
A lot of these questions that y'all are concerned with are items that are addressed at the construction design, or the construction plan review phase. The means and methods of achieving the subdivision that they are proposing tonight, it's their obligation to show how they're going to accomplish that with the construction plans. We review those construction plans to see if they conform to the development code requirements, and at that time, if they can show that they've done that, then they can move forward. The pipeline issues are something that they have to address with the pipeline company. That's not within the purview of staff to make sure that they have their ducks in a row with the pipeline companies and then that sort of item.
Right, so this is a preliminary presentation, and if it were to be approved, the final presentation may vary based on input from the gas line and other variables, right?
What's presented tonight is the preliminary plat, which is a bunch of imaginary lines that show where property lines will someday exist. If you guys approve this preliminary plat, they then present construction plans that allow them to construct all the elements that are necessary for a functional subdivision, and then that construction plan is reviewed and approved by staff.
Right, so the safeguard of the gas line concern is going to be addressed before there would be final plat, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if it may speak,
but not by staff. That is a private property issue. If they had a railroad line running through their property and they were going to cross that railroad, that is an issue that they would have to address with
Thank
those
you.
entities.
Mr. Kahn, you want to respond?
only to Mr. Barrow, to also say that I think that if the preliminary plat is approved, we get into the construction phase and planning of it, and we do determine that there has to be a change in the subdivision, we can't just make that change. We have to come back to you. We have to come back to staff. We have to ask for a change. You have to approve the change. All that has to be done. So, I mean, we could run into some roadblocks with this to begin with. I don't know, but just for your edification, if we have to make changes to accommodate some of these concerns, then we can't just do it without the parish being involved with it. And that's all I really wanted to say.
Mr. Dumas, and after you speak, we've got some of the members of the public would like to address us on this, and I'd like to give them their opportunity after you.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask staff, I mean, my own subdivision, we have pipelines that go through it and the street crosses it. And I've seen countless other subdivisions that have come through here with pipelines in it. Some of them in very low areas and some of them in not so high areas. In your experience, have you run into any situations where you haven't been able to cross a pipeline with a road or built a subdivision adjacent to a pipeline like this?
There are numerous places in the parish where there are pipeline crossings, and we've dealt with several projects since I've been here where, on small commercial projects even, where pipeline crossings have been negotiated, but that's between the landowner and the owner of that pipeline and whatever the servitude or right-of-way agreements that are in place for that agreement.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman. And then I'm going to let after you speak, I want to open it up for the public.
I've got several questions for staff, and I'm just going to give them all to you at one time, and then you can figure out how you're going to respond. The staff recommends approval as all the criteria of the Land Development Code have been met. The question I have is this. with specifically to the traffic, the drainage, and the suggested meetings with the public. Is the traffic study that was submitted, is it current, and does it address this specific subdivision? We've had some concerns that there was previous studies for the PUDs and whatnot. So I want to make sure that the traffic study that was submitted that's referenced here is applicable to this subdivision and is current. The same thing holds true for the drainage, that it's applicable to this subdivision and is current. And then, I don't know of any, but I want to ask the question just to get it in the record. Is there any land development code requirements or any other requirements that the parish has that requires a applicant or developer to meet with the area residents in any way, shape, fashion, or form?
I'll start with the last one. No, sir.
You're speaking to the meeting requirement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm going to let Ben answer the other two.
I'll start with the traffic impact study. The history of that begins back in 2005 when Neil Schaefer did a study for a Woodgate Estates subdivision. They did traffic counts at that time. They analyzed, they prepared a model for the area based on conversations that they had with the engineering review agency that the parish had at that time. The elements of that study were dictated by the engineering review agency, who was acting as the parish engineer at that point in time. When they came back to us with the PUD, they resubmitted that original study. We said, well, a lot of time has passed since then, so please grow your traffic counts by an aggressive 2%, which is what we had recommended to us by DOTD, to more accurately reflect the traffic conditions that are currently occurring at this location. In addition, that study models only 2 exit points from the subdivision, so inherently it's conservative because there are multiple other outlets from this subdivision to the major arterials in the area. So that's kind of the history of the traffic study. It was reviewed by parish staff. It follows a fairly standardized methodology that is defined by federal and state authorities and is in conformance with the parish requirements. The drainage impact study
Wait a minute, hold on a second. My specific question was, does the traffic study that you have in hand, does it specifically address the Mossy Oaks subdivision as drawn?
It has not been revised since the 175 lot subdivision was approved. The currently proposed plan has a reduced loading on the road by having a smaller number of lots. So the submitted report supports 175 lots with the current conditions.
Well, I just want you to articulate your rationale there. So go ahead with the drainage.
The drainage study is a slightly different animal because what they are submitting at this preliminary plat stage is based on the preliminary plat. But there are a lot of elements that have to be defined in the construction design phase. And as previously stated, they have a preliminary drainage approval. But at the time that construction plans are submitted, that drainage study will then be held up against the construction plans to make sure that it accomplishes what was proposed at that time.
Again, I just want to clarify. So the required drainage study that you have in hand is appropriate for this development at this point in the scheme of things?
Again, that drainage study was prepared for the PUD. The currently proposed development has a lesser impervious density, which is the main factor in dictating the requirements of our drainage ordinance. And so the currently proposed subdivision would have a lesser impact. But again, whenever construction plans are submitted, that will be held up against the submitted drainage study to make sure that all the requirements are being accomplished.
Thank you.
Mr. Khan, if we could, there are some residents that'd like to
Yes, sir.
address the commission, and I'd like to give them that opportunity, and then you can come back up and
Yes, sir.
for rebuttal.
Thank you.
That's okay, sir. Mike Farrar.
Good evening. I'm Mike Farrar. I live on J.D. Broussard Road. And I was the one that challenged the commission as stewards of the community to step up and go out there and look. And I want to tell you I greatly appreciate y'all guys stepping up, those of y'all that chose to go. I really do appreciate it, and I know my neighbors appreciate it also. This traffic study that was performed, and regardless if it was for 105 homes, 176 homes, however many homes it was performed for, the information that is provided in that report is false and ludicrous when it is saying that traffic will not be affected in that area. Those of you that went and seen the area and seen the roads know in y'all's heart that that report needs to be canned. It has to go, because that is totally wrong. Now, in the last few months, I've attended several of the Planning and Zoning Commission and Parish Council meetings, and I keep hearing the same catchphrase. It's the developer's right to do this. It's the developer's right to do this. Well, what about the rights of the residents who work, shop, pay taxes in this parish? What about our rights to maintain the livelihood, the type of communities and the lifestyle that we have worked so hard for to develop? You know, the developer is not concerned about the existing communities here. Being the businessmen that they are, they're worried about their profit, which is understandable. That's what all businessmen do. Well, I'm not worried about his profit. I'm worried about my community and my lifestyle being destroyed. And if this development is allowed to continue as proposed, it will destroy the rural characteristics of our neighborhood and a way of life that will never, ever be able to return. And if this is such a fine development, why was it when a representative for the developer was asked at the last meeting here if he would like it if this development was being built next to his house? And he could not give the commission a clear, honest, and decisive answer. All he could do was stand here, shrug his shoulders, and mumble something about it meeting code. Now, the attorney who represents the developer, he made a comment a little while ago about there's a lot of subdivisions that only has one entrance going out to a highway or a road. Well, you know, if you hit your thumb with a hammer 10 times, that don't mean you have to do it 11 times, you know. Things can be changed. Just because it's been done one way for years and years does not mean it's still, it's right for now.
Sir, can you go ahead and wrap it up?
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Greg Duplessis. Can you?
Mr. Chairman, I come up here representing probably close to 100 people, all of them named on this, if anybody would care to review. And as per your bylaws, I'd like to formally request additional minutes and make this presentation to kind of clear the air and show you guys some pictures and charts and flood maps and stuff. to depict why we're so scared. And this presentation is basically designed by my neighbor and friend, Mr. Tim Terrio, and I'd like to use him as my assistant and help do this.
All right, sir, we go ahead and give you 5 minutes total.
Okay, now,
Hold on just a second. Can you reset that, Mr. Compton, for us, please? That's 3 minutes. Oh, okay, it'll count back up to, okay.
help me out here, Rick.
That's new. We didn't have that before. Oh.
Okay, if we could get our presentation started. What we want to do is run some stuff in front of you guys to show what our concerns were. Go ahead, Tim. And let you guys weigh what our concerns are. The print's going to be kind of small. Safety and welfare of the citizens, and that ties in with the high-pressure pipelines, roads and traffic, the green space being proposed, which is 20 acres or more, and the lack of a connectivity to Highway 74. Most of us' biggest concerns with the drainage is backwater flooding that's already existing now, and what this development is going to do to magnify that. And the fact that if you look at their drawings, their sewage system plant and the retention pond is located in the 100-year floodway. Environmentally, y'all have already talked about the wetlands. I won't talk a lot about that or the destruction of all the trees till the very end. Y'all have already in tune with the lots directly accessing on the Babin Road, a big concern of ours there. Based on things that have happened in the last few weeks, we're concerned about lack of any stipulations in your current regulations that prohibit the mixing of permanent homes versus pre-manufactured homes. And we think it would be good if at some point during all these negotiations, there's a stipulation prohibiting pre-manufactured homes in this development. And it's been suggested by a number of residents that a more appropriate name for the subdivision, since there will not be any oak trees left standing under the current proposal, that Pipeline Crossing subdivision would at least hopefully trigger some questions by the prospective buyers of what they're buying into regarding the risk involved with the pipeline and any unknown about expansions or maintenance work done on these pipelines where they'd be coming through your yard, pretty much destroy your yard. The day after closing is not the time to find out that the lot you just bought has a 30-inch pipeline running through it and that your insurance premiums are going to be maximum because you're in the 100-year floodplain. Quickly, there's a satellite imagery that we covered over showing the proposed site from Highway 74 to Babin Road. Shows the two pipelines. That's the main components. I happen to be fortunate enough to take part in a conversation with the pipeline representative. He stated real quick that the drawings he was able to see didn't clearly show all of the pipelines involved there. So it's more pipelines than what we're showing, but those are the main ones. He talked about pressures, normal operating pressure 750, test pressures 1,000. Serious concerns there. Play to what if. Approve this plan, put these 100+ houses in there, have a mishap, and then answer the questions. What developer conceived such an idea and thought it was a good idea, and what planning commission was foolish enough to approve of 136 houses around these pipelines? We got pictures of the parish recognizing dangers on Babin Road already. This car was actually getting ready to make a right turn. If you look close, you'll see they've already eased over past the center line to make that right turn. Go ahead, Tim. To avoid a wheel dropping off in that, because if you drop a wheel off there, you're going to stay there. You proceed further, you get to the three-way stop that used to not be there. This increased volume of traffic that exists now at high rates of speed, it was done at the request of the residents to try to slow it down in front of their neighborhoods. Further down, go ahead, Tim. This is coming from the west, again acknowledging danger on the road by the parish. Go ahead, Tim. You're actually looking at the small end of the Goodine bayou right there, making this dangerous turn. This is Quality's drawing where they've overlaid the 100-year floodplain. Looks to me like to be about 50% of their acreage is in the 100-year floodplain, with 47 of the proposed lots in the 100-year floodplain. Your own code says to avoid doing that. Here's a shot of the FEMA and Ascension Parish flood maps indicating Mossy Oak is clearly in there. This is the 100-year benchmark located really close to the property, like a couple hundred yards. You can see the elevation required for any fill that's coming up. I'm a little light.
You need to go ahead and wrap it up, Mr.
Right there is where the 100-year benchmark is, if you want to relate to that. Go ahead, Tim. These are some of the tributaries that are already experiencing backwater flooding, and the size of them. This is the Goudine that they all drain into, pipeline crossing the Goudine on the property. Look at the fence and look at the road and get some idea of the change in elevation. To give you an idea, that fence goes underwater at times. Just be real careful here, guys. The backwater flooding is severe, and there's all sorts of traffic and drainage concerns here. The pipeline concerns, y'all beat up on that enough. There was much more I could share with you. I'll close up and just, I want to at least respond to this. Mr. Cohn got up here and said that we don't want a subdivision. I've been to every meeting so far that had anything to do with this development. Not one time has one person from the public got up here and said, we don't want any subdivision. What we said is we want something conducive to what's there now that protects our rural quality of life. This subdivision does not even remotely come close. What about this plan that indicates smart growth? What is it about this plan that preserves the rural character of our parish? What is it about the plan that is good for the environment? What is it about this plan that's good for the quality of life for those of us already living here? That's a one-word answer. Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Marty Gendrum.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Marty Gendron. I live on J.D. Broussard Road, and I want to take this time to thank you for giving me time to speak my opinion about Mossy Oak subdivision. I have worked for a pipeline company for the last 27 years. Pipelines are a safe way of transporting materials that we need for our homes and industries. The LPG, liquid petroleum gas, gasoline, crude oil, natural gas are just some of the common materials that we transport in the state of Louisiana. Pipelines are under strict guidelines by the state and federal government to operate safely in our state and in our country. While pipelines have a good track record for safety, accidents still happen. Most accidents are caused by someone digging into a pipeline or corrosion. Take the recent pipeline accident that happened in California that killed 8 people and did millions of dollars of property damage. This is a prime example that we don't live in a perfect world. Accidents still happen. I spoke to a representative with Gulf South Pipeline this week about the 2 pipelines that span across the Mossy Oaks pipeline property. He informed me that these were approximately 20-inch pipelines that have natural gas and operate at a pressure of 1,000 pounds. With this high-density Mossy Oaks subdivision, with a single exit and approximately 250 vehicles trying to escape, this would definitely be a disaster in our community that would hit world news. Not to mention emergency vehicles trying to access the property to aid getting the injured out of harm's way and getting emergency personnel to get pipeline emergencies under control. Several of you commissioners had mentioned that there should be a complete throughway street from Babin Road to Highway 74. This would definitely help should some emergency happen in our community. So I urge y'all to support the commissions that support having a throughway road from Babin Road to 74 for the community and the safety of the residents of Mossy Oaks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Catherine Galpit.
Good evening. It is known and been said by planning staff that the traffic impact studies are flawed in Ascension Parish. Why do the studies come back with a conclusion of no impact? The development comes and the traffic worsens. Mossy Oaks is a good example why, and I'm going to give you 5 reasons. Number 1, the owner and developer, in this case Kevin Wynn, determines the impact of the proposed development on the existing transportation network. This arrangement is not protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the community, but appears to be protecting the pocketbooks of developers. This must change. Number 2, the analysis done for Mossy Oak is an updated document from 2006. Neil Schaefer, a Louisiana registered professional civil engineer, made the original study. On page 3 of the document received from planning staff, it says, per the direction of the Ascension Parish Planning Department, the data was grown by a factor of 2% for 5 years to estimate volumes for the year 2010. Who did this update? Was it a professional engineer? One exit in and out of the subdivision is projected to have negligible effects on the existing road network. Therefore, no road improvements are proposed. Number 3, page 6 of the original study states that this analysis is limited because it does not take into account upstream or downstream conditions. Imagine that. Several roads which will be used by residents in the proposed development are not even considered. It should be noted that Highway 621 and roads connecting from Babin Road to 621 are not discussed. Number 4, on page 17 in the conclusions and recommendations, it states, quote, vehicles exiting this development are not likely to experience significant delays during the AM and PM peak periods, end quote. Do you understand what I just said? The only analysis they have made for this impact study is where vehicles exit the development. They may not experience a delay when they exit, but they will when they reach 621. All people who work in this area will commute, and 52% will be commuting longer than 24 minutes. This is in the study. This development will add to already congested conditions. Number 5, the demographic information for this development uses statistics from the 2000 United States Census. We're now 2011. Then, 22,061 people live within the 5-mile radius of the proposed subdivision. We have had unprecedented growth since 2000. What is the population today? The 2006 analysis done with 2000 census data that considers only the traffic exiting the entrance of the subdivision is flawed. A recommendation for a new traffic analysis should be done with current census data and not just focus on the entrance of the subdivision, but on the arteries that will be affected at the AM and PM peak periods. I ask that these comments be placed in the meeting minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Robert.
Good evening, Teresa Robert. The attorney up here earlier asked for a case when a subdivision was turned down by the commission for certain reasons, and I'd like, my brother lives right next door to one. It was called Shadow Creek Garden. In 2004 was denied by this commission, and it was denied because there was only one way in and out and concern of flooding. And the Ascension Parish Commission denied it because of their responsibility for the health, safety, and welfare of citizens. I thought it was really sort of interesting after watching all of this tonight that I thought it was pertinent to mention that I happen to be part of an unprecedented landmark Supreme Court decision many, many years ago in 1984. And it happened to be an industrial plant that was locating, but they had bought the 1,000 acres, spent all the money, gotten their permits, local, state, federal, et cetera. It took 7 years to go all the way through the court system, and basically the Louisiana Supreme Court came back and said that government agencies, their first and foremost responsibility is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of citizens. And in this landmark decision, they said you don't have to look at only the minimum requirements by law that this attorney seems to be telling y'all tonight. And another citizen talked about the intent and the spirit of the law and things like that. And I would really encourage y'all to protect our community and consider all of these things. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else? No one else has signed up to speak. Mr. Cohen, you want to come back up for your rebuttal?
Well, I think I can sum it up by saying I can agree to disagree with a lot of what was said, and I'm ready to submit it to you for an up or down vote.
Mr. Nance, you want to, you had some comments?
Oh, this is to staff. Was looking through these regulations, 17406B11. Are we in receipt of, are y'all in receipt of that? Oh, wetlands determination. That's part of this approval that we're supposed to have it.
We do have a copy of that in the file. That was part of the work that was done in 2006 for this area. So
I just want to double check. But the reason for that, the plat did not, it said it wasn't requested, so I had no way of knowing.
Do you have any other?
So staff, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So staff, hearing all of the information that you've heard from the public, and what have you, acknowledging that there's no other professional here to dispute your position, you still feel that the application as submitted meets the minimum requirements of the code and that is consistent with all applicable sections of subdivision regulation?
Mr. Kluart?
Sir, I want to comment on your comment you made. No, sir, I have not made up my mind. I'm looking to see for safety, health, and welfare. I'm going to give you in your development all the chance that you can get. And then I disagree with staff on some of the items that they said is due in the construction stage when I'm sitting here and clearly reading that some of the stuff that I'm reading that they're saying is required in the construction stage. No, it clearly states in this book that it's due upon the presentation of the plat. And that's all, sir. I'm not after your project to kill it down or whatever. I just heard one of the speakers says that a subdivision was approved and they don't mind it in the subdivision. So to arbitrarily say that I got a no vote for you already, that's not so, sir. I'm here to answer one of the questions that I have outlined, and it says, the land in question is satisfactorily from the standpoint of the public's interest. That's all, sir. And I want you to respect that. And I respect your feelings and your position. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Barrow?
can I ask the commissioner that just spoke to tell us what he disagrees with staff on in particular, so we can be educated about that?
Okay. Kluart?
Mostly, and then staff, I'm gonna maybe contradict a little bit what I said. Maybe staff just didn't have time to get us, but one of it is the actual true drainage report. I don't have it in front of me. So what am I going to do? I don't have the traffic study. Now, in my package, I got what is known as the requirements, the thresholds, but it doesn't say what it really is. And I need that information. I want that information. And if it's in your favor, then look like you'd want me to have it as well. Now, whether y'all gave it to them or not, I don't know. But I'm going to request staff to give us everything from now on. All the reports, all the data, not just one blanket statement saying it's approved, it meets the regulations and all. Because guess what, sir? I took an oath on this board, and I want to see stuff. As a professional myself, and dealing with attorneys and everything, and you know that too, sir, I want to see it. I want to see it in front of me. That's some of the reasons why I quoted you some of the stuff in here. Some of the stuff in this thing that I quoted you, sir, might not be your problem. And,
Yes, sir.
and the gas was a great concern of mine. And I met with the gentleman, and he was concerned. That's the only thing I tried to provoke him to you, that it is a very, very dangerous thing. And I'm asking y'all to come up with your solution, especially whenever the man's going to tell me you can't use the right-of-way, and that when y'all on your plan state it's a servitude. I mean, those are the things that I'm concerned about. In other words, you're a professional. You know what the difference between a servitude and a right-of-way. And on my information I have right now, it says servitude. The man I met out there representing the gas company said, no, Mr. Kluart, it is a right-of-way. So those are the things that I'm concerned about.
I understand.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
And then, and then staff, I'm gonna maybe contradict a little bit what I said. Maybe staff just didn't have time to get us, but one of it is the actual true drainage report. And that, what it really is. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from Mr. Esnard?
One comment on the gas line through subdivisions and under roads. There's very, very little fill in most cases there. And if there is excessive fill, the gas line requires you to case those lines off. Roadways or subdivisions.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I have one question that I'd like to ask Mr. Lowry, because I need some clarification. Did you say that they originally used the 2006 traffic impact analysis, and you told them to simply change the numbers, add 2% to the numbers?
The traffic count was done in 2005.
Okay.
Those numbers were grown at a rate of 2% annually to get to the 2010 numbers, and that's a fairly aggressive growth rate, and that recommendation came from a discussion staff had with DOTD to what would be a good representative growth rate, a conservative growth rate even.
Okay.
So 2% annually, not 2% from the 2005 numbers. So 2% compounded for 5 years.
Okay. All right. Mr. Nance?
Almost the same question. Are you telling us that there was not a traffic study done after 2006? An actual study, not a estimated study?
I don't understand. The traffic study was updated in 2010.
Was an actual traffic study done, or was it just updated by manipulating numbers?
Technically, it is a traffic study.
Y'all went out there and counted truck cars.
Staff doesn't do that. This is a report submitted by a professional engineering firm.
Mr. Chairman?
Please, I'd like, if I could, I'd like to let Mr. Lowry finish his.
They grew those numbers based on a recommendation with discussions with parish staff.
Pardon my interruption, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Lowry, but, you know, I thought we could get clarity quicker, is why I interrupted for Commissioner Nance's question. So I'll ask it very specifically, because it related to a lot to what I had to say during my turn earlier. Was a threshold to limited traffic impact study as defined, steps A through H, as you put in our packets for all commissioners, conducted for Marcy Oaks subdivision in 2010? Yes or no?
Yes.
With all A through H criteria, and you could give that data to me today. Not grown data from, you understand my question? Not grown data from a study done in 2006. I mean actually going out on number H and doing an analysis at the nearest major intersection typically signalized, which I indicated to you would be Highway 61.
A traffic impact study was submitted to the parish for review. It was reviewed against all technical elements that are required by the code, and it met those requirements.
I don't believe we're getting anywhere, but Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Mr. Lowry has given us his answer. So rather than spin our wheels on this, we need to move forward. Mr. Cohn, do you have any further comments?
No, sir.
All right. Any comments, further comments or questions from commissioners? What is the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve Marcy Oak subdivision on the basis that it meets all of the requirements of the code, and there's no basis to determine that it doesn't, with one condition. And my condition is that you internalize lots 1 through 13 within the subdivision.
Okay, I have a motion to approve with condition of internalizing access to lots 1 through 13 by Julio Dumas. Is there a second?
When would it be appropriate to offer a substitute motion?
You can offer a substitute motion at any.
I'd like to do so at this time.
Okay, your motion, or your substitute.
I would like to add the requirement, in addition to internalizing those lots, that there be a second entrance in the vicinity of Lot 4 to Babin Road. I say in the vicinity because I think a second entrance is a needed thing to Babin Road.
All right, so,
I'll accept that as an amendment to the motion.
okay, so you wish to amend your motion to include the addition of a second entrance?
Correct.
Okay, still waiting for a second on your motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm confused. Which motion was second? The original motion of Mr. Dumas or the amended motion? I didn't hear a second for Mr. Dumas's motion.
Okay, let me, may I withdraw everything and start over again?
And I'll withdraw my
Okay.
amendment.
So the motion and the amended motion have both been withdrawn. Mr. Dumas.
I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision on the basis that it meets all of the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, and there's been no evidence to the contrary, with two conditions. Condition number one is that we internalize, that we relocate a road over Billmore Avenue in such a way so as to internalize lots 1 through 13 into the subdivision, and that Crown Ridge Drive be extended to provide a secondary means of ingress and egress off of Babin Road.
I have a motion to approve with condition to internalize access to lots 1 through 13 and to create a second entrance along Crown Ridge Drive.
Correct, sir.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will second.
A second by Howard Dalton. Any discussion or opposition? I have one nay, Mr. Kluwat. Motion passes. Item 10C, pre-development meeting for Historical Overlay District, tract MCG1 for a reception hall at the Bocage Plantation House.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Dr. Marianne Rundell. I was here at your last meeting in December. I was unprepared to speak to you because I thought my designer would be able to present to you what I thought you needed. So unfortunately, I was ill-prepared and underdressed, etc. So I hope that I'm here to apologize for my appearance last time. But I do want to speak today about the reception hall designed at Bocage Plantation. You guys requested, I think, at the last meeting that there be a larger three-dimensional or perspective view of that to be presented to you. I had that done and presented to staff prior to the time that you guys needed. Subsequently, I've had another drawing showing it in perspective with relation to Bocage Plantation that is only supplemental. Tonight I've brought with me the author of Marie Adrienne Persac's book regarding plantations and its dependency buildings. That is Mr. Pat Bako. I've also brought with me tonight Dr. Neil Odenwald, who is the author of Live Oak Splendor and several other books regarding plantation landscape and design, as well as an individual who has been involved with Rosedown, with Melrose in Natchez, and Longview, and a number of other places throughout. Primarily, Live Oak Splendor deals with those plantations from Natchez to New Orleans. I've also brought with me Dr. Robert Giudice, or Bob Giudice, who has lived in L'Hermitage and is considered one of the foremost historical architectural individuals regarding plantations. So I brought a number of people. I've also brought with me James Dakin's book There was a question last time about the use of stucco, quote, plaster. I actually brought a piece with me that we retrieved from Bocage as we were doing the restoration. Unfortunately, I left it at the house. I left it at Bocage. So there are a number of people, as well as I'm hoping that some people will speak as to the positive economic impact on Ascension Parish by having a reception hall at Bocage, so that Bocage may be able to host such events as wedding receptions, wedding parties, other corporate events, parties, and things like that. It's a large area and would be able to handle it according to the things that we've seen. Any question that you would have of me, I'd be delighted to answer. Otherwise, I'll have other people speak.
Well, I've got a question because I want to make sure that, once again, I'm in need of a little clarification.
Surely.
I don't think, last month, when this commission voted to postpone this item to, till this month, I don't think the issue was whether or not there should be a reception hall at Bocage.
Right. No, I understand that.
It was simply, we wanted
architectural
to make sure
design.
the intent of the ordinance was being followed. So, a reception hall at Bocage, I'm not
Right.
saying I'm
No.
for or against it, but we just want to make sure that the ordinance is being followed.
Mr. Marchand, I think that, as you guys had mentioned last time, it was a question of architectural integrity. I think you showed pictures of Bocage Plantation, the building, and suggested that the dependency buildings should have an identical or close appearance to that particular building. And someone mentioned, I think, at the last meeting that there were columns in front of Bocage Plantation, and the new building did not have columns in front of it. For that reason, I've brought with me Mr. Bako, who wrote this book on what dependency buildings are supposed to be like. That was the purpose of bringing Mr. Bako here tonight. I've also brought with me, as I said, Dr. Neil Odenwald, who also has worked in a number of plantations and is an architectural historian. I've also brought with me Bob Giudice, Dr. Giudice, who has lived at L'Hermitage and is considered an architectural historian in this area. May I allow those people to speak?
Please.
Thank you.
Gentlemen and madam, just so that you will know that I'm just not another yahoo from Baton Rouge coming down interfering with the Ascension Parish's affairs. I've loved your parish for 50 years. I've been visiting down here. I particularly like that wonderful 6-mile stretch of River Road going from Burnside up to Darrell. You've got 3 incredible plantation houses of architectural importance there. I think that what the doctor is trying to do there is a very positive thing. He spent a lot of money, obviously, on restoring the historic house itself. But also, I think, even from the point of view of an art historian, architectural historian, these places have to be made viable. And I think that the architectural rendering that you all are looking at now does show a reception hall that is evocative of the front of the house. It is pilasters rather than columns, but I think it works rather well. Now, frankly, as an art and architectural historian, I'm far more concerned with the reception hall not intruding on the historical house. I believe in this plan you will see that it will be greatly mitigated by landscaping and that sort of thing. And the reception hall will not really intrude on the beauty of the historical house at all. I'm also, for the last 40 years, have been involved with Magnolia Mound Plantation in Baton Rouge, which is a Baton Rouge Recreation Parks Commission house. We are getting ready to build an $800,000 reception center. It is going to be contemporary. It will be hidden, though, by plantings and that sort of thing. All you'll see is the roof, and the roof will reflect the type of roof that we have on the historical house. And so all I'm telling you is I think that you need to be concerned only about the new building not intruding on the historical building. And I believe that this is being affected in this drawing, or else I wouldn't come up here and testify before you. And I think that addresses most of your issues, Mr. Marchand.
Yes and no. It's there may be some questions I had that would require more time or look at a different approach which we don't have time tonight in the meeting itself. So
Sure.
I'm not saying I'm against it. I just want to ensure that that's the reason that the ordinance, the architectural requirements in the ordinance. In fact, when we did that, I was criticized. Well, they're too lax. Well, the problem is if you make them too strenuous, then you create a lot of projects that become unfeasible. So we wanted to, consistent with the style or period of the historical site, the building, that left, we felt that left a great deal of latitude. Because there were, I don't think people understand that there were as many types of architecture 100 and 200 years ago as we roughly have today. There was a variety out there. So we felt that would give more option to the owners of the historical site properties, plus the adjacent property owners.
Well, as I say, I think that this reception hall is going to be evocative of the Greek Revival period of the house because of the pilasters, and he's got a very nice Greek Revival pediment across the front. And I think that it should address the issues that you have there.
All right, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
We were just informed by staff that we have only 10 minutes to speak, and we have a number of people to do so. I would like to show you from James Dakin's book itself. I'll pass it around you. On page 45, it shows the Mercantile Building in New Orleans, Mercantile Exchange Building.
I'm Neil Odenwald. Thank you for your time this evening. Since Dr. Rundell hired me back in the summer, I've been very concerned about preserving the historical integrity of the site. It's surely a gem on this river road. And I've always thought that Bocage itself should be the feature of the site. And surely I would do everything possible to make a building that was placed on the site subordinate to Bocage, the plantation home. And so it is my responsibility to look at holistically the entire site. And some of that is in the landscaping, the siting of a building. And so we've already placed some 30 or 40 trees out there on the site thus far. And so you can be assured that I will do everything to make Bocage, the mansion, the prominent building that it is and should be, and subordinate in every way I can. Dr. Rundell has done, he has crossed every T and dotted every I as far as the integrity of this building itself, and so he's hired a number of us to be assured that the site itself will not only be protected. The Commission on Adjustments, and just a few weeks ago, provided a variance so that we could protect those 200-year-old live oaks out there, which was a great asset. I mean, help to us as we looked at this site, because that's just one aspect that they were responsible for. So thank you for hearing us out, and surely the planting, in other words, the sketch that you're seeing, the rendering that you're seeing there does not in any way include all of the planting that would be a part of the site. We have that plan here to show you that there will be a lot of massing of azaleas and classical plants that will be added in addition to the 30 or 40 live oaks that we've already placed there. Do you have any questions of me?
Any question, Mr. Esnard?
No, I was the one that brought up the question about the columns and the windows, and I think had I had this drawing right here, in front of me at the time, I never would have had that question.
Well, I think the point is well taken. I think that you didn't have enough probably information at that time, and I knew in my heart that Dr. Rundell would not do anything that would affect the integrity of this site. But we did need more information for you to make a decision of this type.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bob and I visited the site, and I really enjoyed it. The only thing I saw was, back in them days, they didn't have that big old concrete slab out there for parking.
Well,
I mean, I know there's nothing you can do about it.
Go to the adjustments, you know. They're the ones that make it.
I fell in love with it. It was great. It's nice. And,
you as a commission, you must visit inside that house. If you haven't seen the inside of that house, it will knock your head off, I can tell you. It is something to behold. Thank you.
How do we go about doing that?
Oh, I'm sure I can get you an invitation.
Thank you, sir.
I now would like to have Dr. Giudice speak with you as well. And I do want you to know that I am very sincere about the things that I have done with Bocage. When I first walked in it, it was a disaster. I have spent literally hundreds of thousands, if not into the million of dollars, restoring that house because it was a labor of love. And I can tell you I've spent 3 years of my life here doing that and taking away from my family and friends and other people in so doing. I don't at all ever want to injure a historic structure. Thank you very much. But Dr. Giudice will now speak with you.
Thank you for allowing us to address you on this particular important subject as far as we're concerned. Ascension Parish really has the unique position of having more antebellum homes in its parish than any of the others between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And what he has drawn up for this building is certainly just gone way overboard as far as making it look like it could have fit and very appropriate. We are fortunate in having the original plans for our sugar mill outbuildings and things like that, and they are nothing compared to this. I think ours was built, they obviously copied the facade of a church from New Orleans, and that was our sugar mill, and stood out like a sore thumb. But Dr. Rundell's plans, I think, would be a great addition to the property and to Ascension Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
I just have a short comment. If you do as good a job on that reception hall as you did on that house, I'm looking forward to it. I did visit it with Mr. Cluot, and even though it said keep out, we drove in there and looked around.
Each of you are welcome to tour the house. Irina is the manager of Bocage, and you're welcome as my guest, not as Spence to you as my guest, to tour Bocage, because I would like for each of you to see what it looks like.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to echo the sentiments of the various commissioners, and I met Irina. I don't know if she remembers, but I came out and saw the inside of the house. Absolutely remarkable. And the restoration on the outside. The only thing that's unfortunate there, I know it's beyond your control, is that all the original furnishings for the house obviously can't be. But what a tremendous job, and thanks for the drawing. So I took the $2 tour. It's actually a $20 tour. But in fairness to Irene too, she didn't make me pay. She was on the phone doing some of your bed and breakfast business, and so another gentleman that was there said, "Feel free just to walk around." So I hope we didn't break any rules. And my wife and I, we just kind of walked around and took a look at it, and I toured the back of the property to see. And I was amazed. I think you said 40 trees. I think I counted well over 50 already. And at least, it seems like several hundred azalea bushes and other things. I think what you've done to the property, sir, is remarkable.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and open it up. If there's any member of the public that wishes to address the commission on this item, please come up, sign in with the secretary, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commission members, for allowing me to speak to you. My name is Raymond Gomez, and I'm with the Ascension Parish Tourism Commission. And I just wanted to come out and let you know that we have been working with Dr. Rendell since he first purchased the property. And we think we have a real good working relationship with him. He's dedicated. He saved a historical landmark. He also allowed it to be open so that he can share the house with the public and visitors. And our goal is to get more visitors here to Ascension Parish to make this place the destination it should be. We are in support of him adding another amenity to that beautiful property, and we hope that he's able to achieve that because of all of his hard work so far. It will bring more visitors. It will also bring more tax dollars. People will buy gas, they'll shop, they'll eat at our great restaurants that we have all in the vicinity of that beautiful house. And it will also employ more people here in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Kluwak?
How much land, how big is the place, sir? We were kind of wondering that when we was visiting. How much land you have there on that?
I'm sorry, I have to address you from here. There's 110 acres involved. The immediate vicinity of the house is about 20 acres, and back to the old sugar mill is maybe, I don't know if you take it and make it square, would be about 30 of those 110 acres.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this plat. I make a motion that we approve.
I'll second it.
I have a motion to approve by Milton Kluwat, second by Bob Nance. Is there any objection or discussion? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to commend them on the product that they produced here. You and Dr. Rendell, I've seen your building from before you bought it, when the roof was leaking and the walls were about to fall off. I commend you for what you've done for Ascension Parish, for the people of Louisiana. Preservation of these historic sites is really urgently needed in order to preserve our culture, and thank you very much for that.
I certainly agree with you. Please do come by, please do tour, and Irina will just tell her that you're here from Ascension Parish, and she'll let you come in, tour, no problem. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 12.
Move to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. Any objection, discussion? Then we are adjourned.